Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Lens with Avantika. This is the ninth episode of Global Lens with Avantika. And today we are going to talk about India and US trade deal, rather, the trade tariff dispute, which has been going on, especially since the year 2025. And to discuss the same, we have Rakesh Kumar Singh, who is economics professor in Delhi University, and he's also a regular panelist for a lot of TV debates. Hello, Rakesh ji, and welcome to Global Lens with Avantika.
Thank you so much, Avantika ji, for having me here.
So nice of you to take out time and be here, and I hope we will get a lot to know from you in the subsequent discussion. So to start with, uh, before we actually get into the timeline of 2025, if you can briefly explain our audience about the trade tariff understanding which has been going on in the recent scenario between India and US.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. See, in a very normal word, if you try to understand the word tariff, so basically tariff is just like a barrier which any country imposes on a other country to favor their own international trade, in terms of production of goods or something. Now, this thing has become very interesting after the Trump coming into power because the tariff, which earlier was used as a way to protect the domestic industries or domestic production, has changed into more into geopolitics. Now, let me explain all of you that how it has changed. Previously, the tariff, like which has been introduced by developing countries like India or China, if you talk any countries like, so it was more to help the infant industries or the infant which are trying to do something or agriculture, let's say for India, to protect our consumers or producers in those way. But now coming to the Trump, economics, which have what is we are seeing is that it's a more being done to deal with more of a strategic way of dealing with the geopolitics. Like recently, the India vis-a-vis relation with Russia or India vis-a-vis relation with other countries, how America is trying to look at this and how America is trying to change some type of relations which India has with other countries. So it has taken that way. So that is something also very disappointing because earlier the tariff or non-tariff barriers, basically we have two ways of dealing with protecting the local industry. It can be tariff barriers which is imposed like 10% or 20%, something on the amount of the good which is being imported. Or non-tariff barriers are also there, like sanitary measures, phytosanitary measures are there, or quota system are there, where it's not in the percentage terms on the total amount of goods, rather than some indirect way of restricting the thing. So basically, the main point is that how can the local economy protect itself from outside influence? So some of the these measures are being adopted in that. But earlier it was a more of I would say way to protect the local economy or local consumer. It was something in positive sense. But with the changing Trump administration, it is being more used as a strategic warfare. I would say I would use the term strategic warfare. Tariff is being used as an instrument of economic warfare. As we have in the general warfare, we use different technology, drones or whatsoever to deal with other economy. Here, Trump administration has used it as a more of a economic warfare to change the thing in their own way. Maybe it is because of their their own national politics which is going on, or to curtail India's position or relations with other economy. So that's what I feel that which is going on since 2025, as you said. And the punitive measures which have been adopted by the United States, like raising, let me tell you some brief background of what is going on. Previously we had this tariffs, thing with the US going very well. But 25% extra punitive measure was adopted by the United States and it raised to 50%. Now, that was done deliberately because India was in good terms with Russia and we're importing oil, from Russia, and US was not, happy with that, and United States wanted that they should not buy Russian oil for the energy source. So it was raised to 50%. Then we had a talk and we made some type of agreements, and it then that was waived off. It was reduced to 25%. Then again, we had a lot of discussion with the United States to take care of those things, and fantastically later on the Supreme Court, a striking judgment came in the United States, which said that no, one has to take care of the, it's not a national emergency thing which have been imposed, and it was struck down to 10%. So these are all ups and downs which is going on, which is making the system in the economics, international trade. I say the rule based order is very important, and that is something which is not happening. And for a normal consumer, let's say talk about our Indian consumer, in the agriculture sector or producer, these things are going to impact a lot. Let me explain you through a very local example of Coimbatore. Now, Coimbatore is a place in India which is very famous for textiles. There's a lot of cash flow also in the Coimbatore because of textile thing. It is called the Manchester of the South. The Coimbatore is very famous for that. But because of this textile, tariff which US has imposed, it created a lot of problems. Although India diversified the market, India also played in a very good way. We, diversified our market to Europe and other nations also. We had a European Union free trade agreement also at the same time in order to counter the US. But textiles or leather, which are the labor intensive economies, and this type of haphazard tariff, which was introduced by the US, giving the comparative advantage to Bangladesh and Vietnam, comparatively, was something was not in the good side when it comes to the Indian economy, I would say. Yes.
Okay. So now going back to the early 2025, though you have holistically explained things to us, but we'll go step by step here. So now we are starting from early 2025, where we saw a renewed rhetoric and around reciprocal tariff and fair trade. Now, this I'm talking about. This is the initial part where before that additional 25% was imposed. So this is early around in the first half of 2025. So, what do you think triggered this re-escalation at that particular moment?
I think, as I mentioned, this whole agenda of tariff imposition by the United States has less to do with I would say, the local economy and more to do with the geopolitics strategy. I would say geopolitics warfare. Let me give you a few examples to substantiate my point. We had this because of this Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine war, which is going on, and India is a very sovereign nation. We took our stand to import the Russian oil, and we did very well also because as an independent nation, we have our own right to, go about anything. So we started, importing a lot of energy reserves from, oil, particularly oil from the Russia. Now, US point view is that it should not be routed through Russia, and and as Trump has mentioned a lot of time that do the trade with us, and he's very vocal about this, saying this thing that you should give us something, or or either he will create problem for you. Like we have seen in many of his statements which he has made also openly. So in a way, in a punitive measure, they increase that thing to from 25% to 50%, which is totally against the WTO rules. World Trade Organization, if we talk about the basic rule of the World Trade Organization after the GATT 1995, it clearly mentions that there should be rule based order in the terms of trade. Any developing country or developed country, whenever we are trying a trade, let's take a very simple example. Suppose that you are having a business also, and your rates keeps on changing for a product. So that is not good even for the consumer. Now consumers are the king in any economy. We say that. So that is that fundamentals of that company is also not taken into consideration. If we talk about stock market also, if you are investor, the things are changing every day. That is also not taken the right side. In the same way, the same rule applies for the international trade also. So having this haphazard system rule, not having rule based order, created a lot of distortion. So 50% when it was imposed, it created a lot of problem because we have a lot of pharmaceuticals export to the US. If we talk about particularly electronics and all those gems and jewelry, leather, textiles, they took a lot of in a negative way. It's impacting our export-based industries. They suffered because of that. I would say. So I think that was a way. They were using at a strategic warfare. I would say geopolitical strategic warfare to teach a lesson to India, and to make it look at the press statement which came in the United States after this thing happened. The press statement of the US says it very clearly that India has been a long imposition of the tariff on the US, 37%. If you go through the minutely through those trade statement, the wording is that India has been a long, usage of the tariff and non-tariff barrier against the United States, and Trump administration is taking care of the national people like that. But that is not the case. We had whatever the agreement. India is a developing country. We have a huge, agricultural population to take care of, and the type of machinery which and the type of subsidies, if we talk about it, which US provide, we do not provide this type of subsidies to the farmers. Although US keep on saying this thing in the WTO all the time that India provides a lot of distorts the global market in terms of the trade by purchasing a lot of grains in a minimum support price from the consumers, from the agriculture producers. But we are doing that thing because we have a large agriculture producers who needs a lot of support. But in US case, they are providing a lot of machinery, a lot of support subsidies to the agriculture people. So that is the point that needs to be taken care of. That distortion has not been there from India side, and everything was going very well. And apart from that, but until unless this thing has been brought, and I would say that it's more of a national politics, which is Trump administration doing from their side, and using the tariff money for their own development also, because Trump also said that we have accumulated this much amount. So I would say that is the reason that I think Supreme Court of the United States have taken this type of points before taking that massive judgment which they have made, that you are using those revenues for your short term measures. Tariff revenue, as Trump also said, we have accumulated a lot of money. Now we'll be using for their own development. So this is not the way the economics rules work, the international trade works. It is the I would say a proper rule based system is very important, and that's created a problem. Yes.
Okay. Taking this point forward,
Yes.
as 2025 progressed and that additional 25% was also put in, now which sectors here became the biggest sticking point? When we talk about India, of course, we know about that they were taking oil, purchasing oil, and US had issues with that, and so on and so forth. But what were those sectors which were majorly targeted by putting such a huge tariff? First, reciprocal tariff, and then that additional 25% tariff.
I think that's a very good question, and that will be the crux of all, I would say, India-US trade relation. I would say, see, energy. I would say, the recent, although the final document has not come into the public parlance about the document, but energy, I would say that the 500 billion US dollar, which was there, that India will be importing, a type of from the energy from the United States. I think that is the most sticking point for all the things. But India, we are importing a lot of our need of our energy reserves. That is also the one of the reality, and I don't think so that will create a lot of problem, because India, as per the, because we have to sustain a large, I would say, population. So we have been changing this thing over a period of time. Whenever it's suited, we imported from Iran. Wherever it's imported from Saudi Arabia, or when it shoot, we imported from the Russian oil also, or Venezuela also. Recently, we had an agreement that we are importing from there. So energy was, I would say, a most important area where we are trying to import a lot of crude oil from the US also, which Trump also administration somewhere indirectly wanted to have that thing very particularly. Yes. Apart from that, having said that, I would say that yes, it is the leather, textiles, which was initially affected a lot. There was a lot of report news which was coming out that in the Coimbatore and the other places also it was great. Even in the Noida also nearby Delhi NCR, apparel industry, textiles were getting impacted because of that. But I think Indian administration beautifully carved out the European Union FTA, free trade agreement. I think that was a very good, I would say, decision. At the same time, we had FTA with United Kingdom, we had FTA with Australia. So these all free trade agreements somewhere, I would say, were in a way strategical move to how to diversify our export, to other nations, and to deal with the problems. But at the same time, we have our, our back channels, experts. They were meeting with the US counterparts. Recently also the meeting took place, and we're trying to persuade them, so that we come into the some common agreements. See, the main concern of India is that there is no problem as such. We would like to have a trade at 18%. That's fine. But thing is that the most important problem is the Section 301. Now,
Hmm.
Section 301 is very not good for India because Section 301 clearly says that it can take any shape in the future also. That India does not want to have because Section 301 says that it can be 18%, but maybe in the future it can rise depending upon the specific products or which suits US. So this is the main thing which we don't want to have because we want to have stability, we have to have predictability, and that will take care of the Indian producer, consumers also in the right way. So this is the thing which you wanted to have, and fantastically, when the agreement was going on, the Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal also talks about like, okay, we have agreed for nuts. Although we already have the California nuts, which the Indian consumer consumes, so we don't have so much of comparative advantage in nuts production. Or but we didn't allow for dairy or some other specific sector which are very important for agriculture. We didn't go for that. So we allowed for wine. Okay, fine. Recently, these things are already very much there. So we have given them access to those products which are not going to impact our economy, our local producers in a very substantial way. That is very much that the leaders have and experts have taken care of in a very, I would say, vividly and in a very strict manner. Yes, of course, there are certain areas which US wanted to have, like energy. Okay, we agreed $500 billion. We'll try to imports. Already, we have a diversified market. We are already in the same time building our own, renewable sources energy. India has become the third largest renewable sources energy production in the world. So we are moving a lot slowly in that direction, and till the time we have to make some compromises. We have to take the US also in the same ship. So that's what we did. So replying to your question, I would say textiles, leather, these were the areas which were initially impacted. Some of the agriculture products also which they were looking for. US also wanted to have changes in the pulses area, but we didn't agree to that because we didn't agree totally with the pulses, giving access to the Indian market. Medical devices, they also want to have digital in some of the areas. They also wanted to have those access, but India is going very minutely, and India is taking care of all the consumers and having a lot of discussion with our own, think tanks, with our own, agriculture groups, and then only we are taking those, decisions.
Okay. And if we move a little forward now, so say from August 2025 till February 2026, when that tariff was again taken off by Trump administration, and also it was done across world, and reciprocal tariffs were also reconsidered. So why? I mean, why after 5 6 months they decided to do that?
That's the point. I said that. See, if you take India's stand, PLI, let's say about production linked incentives. Fantastically, we have done used it, and Avantika ji, you'll be very, it's a very great thing to know that earlier we were the smartphone importer nation. We have become a smartphone exporter nation now. Apples have been manufactured a lot in India. You see, we have become a smartphone exporter nation because of the production linked incentives, a fantastic scheme, which is brought by the government, where they are giving incentives to the domestic manufacturer also for the intermediaries. Take an example of toys. We are importing toys from China, but because of our own change policy, we have become the exporter of toys in the world. So specifically in many of the products, we are doing very good. But US, US understand this thing that they create this 301, as I mentioned, Section 301, and wants to keep the thing dicey for India, which is not good. I again say, because for India as a developing country to bloom and to much better, we want to have a predictable future. We want to have a rule-based system, which somewhere I think Trump administration understands very clearly that they don't want to give that leverage to us. Although we are trying to have that leverage, and we are trying to have, some sort of discussions, and we also agreed to the, I would say, 500 billion US dollar energy security, those agreements also with the United States. So we have given some of the areas or access where we can afford. But having said that, to have giving the open access, which US wanted, like in all the areas, like autos and all, we are not agreeing to that because, of course, we have to take a large producers into domestic agriculture market also into consideration. Yes, post I would say 25% punitive measure which was reduced, I think things become started becoming normalizing. Things were getting good. the trade agreement was going on. But I would say that when the things were going very good, I would say that somewhere US also get to know like they cannot take all these things in haphazard way. Supreme Court ruling came. The Supreme Court ruling which came in a way made it like 15%. Then Trump administration decided to go with the 15% with all. With India, it is 18%. So, and Supreme Court tariff said that this is done in not a nice way and not a rule-based order and not a national emergency is there so that you can impose this type of haphazard tariff on the other countries. And we decided that okay, then but still we are having the agreement because already the Supreme Court after that because it was already the back channel tax was going on and we wanted to make it more predictable. And I think India, I would say that from India, the best strategy would be not to go for provoke thing, and that we are doing it very well. And we are not going for any provoking system. We did not did any type of harsh, traffic, reciprocal traffic when it come to the US, which US was doing like 50% and like China, let's say for example, what China did. China also, raised their tariff structure when the US imposed a heavy tariff on the China. So I think we played very smart because till the point we are already third largest, growing nation in the world. And sorry, first largest growing nation in the world. India is the fastest growing developing economy in the world, and we are taking care of a lot of sector specific things, semiconductors and all those, and we are trying to service sector. We are doing fantastically well in the Make in India also, we are trying to touch upon the manufacturing sector. So, all the sectors we are touching upon, and we are trying to develop till the point we become self-reliant, and we go to become a very important part of the global supply chain, which China has done. And so, I think till that point, the provocation point was, I think that we did it, and that was good also. And we played, we talked, we had a good of talk, back channel talks, and we agreed that in the in this mutual agreement, I would say the agreement agreements took place and we went ahead with the same thing. So yes, I would say that if 301 is not is being removed and we have some standard point like 18% or 15%, then India should go ahead with that and that will take care of the Indian economy.
Okay. So just one small question here. There was approximately only 2 weeks difference between Trump calling off the trade tariff and then U.S. Supreme Court making a decision on it. So, do you think these events also were probably interlinked or their timeline kind of it happened approximately around the same time? What I'm trying to ask here is why didn't US Supreme Court probably do it earlier, say in the year 2025? Why later, once the reciprocal tariffs and the other additional tariffs were already recalled?
See, Avantika ji, in order to reply this thing, I would like to take you something in the current this, Israel-Iran war and which is going on. To give you a brief background about what is going on. If you go and ask the local public of Israel about the war, which we are getting the inputs from the media sources, their point is very clear. Okay, we are with the war and we will support the government because they are doing to neutralize Iran with the nuclear thing which they are having, and it can create a problem for us in the future. So normally Israeli public is with the government, Benjamin Netanyahu. He is not having a very huge backlash, which America is having at the same time. You see, in America, you have a lot of Democrats, or if you talk about other local public, they are against. And you may have seen certain news also where the army persons also they were not happy with this thing going on, saying that this is the war of Israel. Why America is going into that? We have nothing to do with this thing. So I think somewhere the civil society of the America takes up this thing also in a very I would say they have their views. They put their views in a very different way, and it's in one of the largest also democracy I would say, and oldest democracy I would say, and they have the different sections stakeholders which put up their views. Having said that, when it comes to the Supreme Court ruling, I think say somewhere the as I can make it out the civil society views, and the different traders views, when it comes to, or local consumers, see, imposing the tariff, one should understand one thing: it is not only helping the nation, because sometimes it is a local consumer also which is there at the at the loss. Because suppose that they were importing the Indian products, some of the Indian products, let's say, were having, the consumers were having. Now the cost has risen because of that. So we cannot take into consideration only the producer's point of view, which Trump administration was at the fault. We have to also take into consideration the consumers at a large also, that they are also getting lost, because of the products not reaching to them at a reasonable cost or at a reasonable price. So I think these all factors culminated finally in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court, after taking into because of national emergency point, uh, you know we have to go into the legal insights to understand this thing. The Trump administration used national emergency, those aspects, to bring the tariff into consideration, which Supreme Court, after analyzing and understanding the things, got to know that no, there was nothing any national emergency in this thing, imposing this thing under the national emergency thing and imposing a tariff on the nation. So I think that was a very good, I would say, legal insight and the legal, I would say, understanding which has been shown by the Supreme Court of America. And they say they got to know after going through the intricacies of that, and they say that no, this is not good, and you have to impose 10% tariff ubiquitously all around the world. Now, regarding the timing, yes, I would say that this type of when a strong thing comes, I think Supreme Court of a nation takes some time, to have a lot of discussions, and some type of judgments, need some type of discussion. Even in India also we say that, when any constitutional amendment comes or something, we have a very good, fruitful and a very good, way of understanding where different parties are given their chance to give their views, and it do take some time to understand the ground level situation and what is required for the nation, whether it is required or not. And in India's case also, we have seen that some of the judgments have been nullified in the past, but they have taken into consideration a lot of good time. So that is the part of the healthy democracy also, I would say. So in America, the timing, I would say, it has to do more with the understanding of the core things and looking at the impact. When the impact was seen that maybe the consumers are also affected because of those things, and it is was not going in right way, or Democrats also saying about the same thing, then I think it was a appropriate time with the Supreme Court that took the right decision and gave a right message to all across the world also, and to the Americans also, that things is not going to work in this way. The country runs through some document and some rule book, and you have to take care of that in terms of the running the economics also.
So now, almost the last leg of our discussion, which is first the WTO meeting, which happened not even last week, just last 5 days in Africa. And your comments on that, especially when it comes to India US negotiation and the tariff situation which is going on. And yeah, first of all, that, and then the discussion which is on the table right
That's, I think, it's very important for India to put its views in the WTO, wherever, as we have been doing it also in the past, wherever, when it comes to the protection of our domestic consumers and our agriculture people, it's very important. And having said that, I would say that the whole, notion, or the which is going on across the world, that multilateral institutions have lost their their importance, whether it's UN or United Nations or whether WTO. This is not good for the, I would say, for the public at a large, for the whole economy, for the globalized economy. We are living in the globalized system where there's a global order is there, and there is a concept of global citizen also. So to put this type of restriction is not good. Bilateral agreements, okay, WTO also provides for MFN, most favored nation, those things, but that is also in some of the selective criteria. Bilateral agreements, but to turn multilateralism into bilateralism or unilateralism is not good. I would say it will not be good for the whole economy. Take into consideration the global citizen, that is not good, and which the world is also realizing, because today, Avantika ji, we are living in the world of the global world where global supply chain matters a lot. And ultimately, it is the importance of the consumer which is to be taken care of. And so I think WTO, even Brazil also raised the same thing in the WTO, last WTO meeting also. Brazil wanted to have the 4-year extension, but America wanted to have permanent thing when it comes to the information technology and all, which is not good. So somewhere, developing countries have to take it into both, and they should be taken into consideration. And after that, then only the WTO, World Trade Organization, things should be taken care of, and the multilateral agreements. I say the multilateralism or the international institutions, the WTO can then only can take care of the concerns of the different countries.
Now coming to the point wherein still India-US trade deal is not final and not sealed, and it is still going on. And there are a lot of speculation as to what is happening in Washington and what is the basis of their discussion, wherein agriculture has been spoken about, oil has been spoken about. So, what are your views per se to the deal, which is yet to happen, which is yet to be formalized, and which is yet to be put on the table as a, known to the entire uh, regular public of India? What are your thoughts about that? What could be happening there?
Precisely, if I would say that there are two important points which should be taken care of. The number one is that the predictability of the trade, that should be the number one, objective of India. No any haphazard type of trade policy we should have. India should have vis-a-vis US. The first point I would like to say. The second point is that if India agrees or 15% or whatever the tariff with the US, Section 301 is something which we need to take care of. 301, it should not be there in book like anywhere, because that is something which will keep the thing in a hanging mode. But maybe in the future the things can be changed, and it will create a counterparty for India for specific products. I would say for any product which the Trump administration wants to have. So I think if we are able to somewhere deal with these 2 points which I mentioned, it will be a win-win situation for India, I would say. And rest, I think the Indian economy is very much prepared. Our back channel developments is already going on, when it comes to labor intensive production, or the I would say the semiconductors or make in India project, which are doing fantastically well in that. So these 2 points, if we have a stability rule based order with the United States, I think India will be in a better position to deal with any other problems which will be there, I would say. It comes to energy security, I say it's fine. Energy security, it's fine. Whether it is we import from the US $500 billion, we have to import like over a span of 5 years or 6 years, that is fine. Because we already, you see this war is going on already. We are trying to diversify our imports from different countries, so that won't be a problem for India. That will be somewhere, it's like a strategic reserves for the India, I would say, for the long run. And that way it can be taken care of, and we'll have a wonderful relation with United States. Plus, as you see in the current war which was going on, we have tried to manage to get our oil from Strait of Hormuz. And let me tell you one very important point, that Strait of Hormuz till 2020, India was importing 60% of our reserves from there. But government somewhere in this 5, 6 years, 6 years have done it so well that 30 it has come down to 33%, and most of our imports were channelized from other sources like Suez Canal and all. So somewhere we were, we say in economics, never put your all eggs in one basket. So we did it very well. We were looking, exploring other ways like Switch Canal. Already we are doing from those 4, 5 years, and it was coming down, and we are managed, and that done particularly very well, I would say.
Okay. Just one last question. It's an add-on to this one. You mentioned about energy security. You also mentioned about oil. Any other sector which you would like to talk about, which needs to be kept in focus?
Yes, I think we have made it very clear when it comes to dairy, and when it comes to some of the core agriculture products which are there, which are very pivotal and very important for our Indian farmers. We have not compromised on that, and I think India stands to be very clear and on the same thing, because those are the areas which supports a lot of the population, and we have made it very clear that it's not possible in those areas to go ahead. Of course, there are areas, I said, wine, nuts, where we already don't have the we already, if you go to any normal mall, or if you go to any store, you'll find Californian nuts over there. So already we're not having comparative advantage in those areas. So those things, if it we are where we can give the access to our Indian consumer, that's fine. That won't be a problem for us. But when it comes to the farmers, farmers interest, we should be very much particular about this thing, and we have mentioned it, very important. When it comes to the local industries, domestic industries, many aspects also, we are very particular about it that no, we are not going to, we cannot, give so much access in those arenas. But other areas, energy, if you talk about TK, energy is okay. Crude oil, we're already importing a lot from the other countries. So if you are having the agreement with the US, that's not going to impact the Indian economy. That's going to add on to our reserves, I would say. And that will not be creating problem. Yes, but I say that it was a more of a geo-strategic war again. I mentioned because we are importing a lot of we are from the Russia, which US I would say we're not happy about, and they wanted to curtail it and wanted to why not buy from us also. So we agreed, okay, fine. For over a long period of time, some time we'll be purchasing from US crude also, and this is how it was sorted out. So our strategy of finding making a striking balance and taking care of the Indian public large, I'd say. Really, I would say it's a fantastic work which we have done.
Okay, so thank you, Rakesh ji. That was very insightful, and I also got to know a lot of things, and I hope our audiences will also garner a lot of information from this. Anything that you want to talk about or mention about this entire topic?
I think very soon we are going to have this agreement document with all of us, and one thing I would like to say a message to your audience and all public, that is that I think we should stay away from the panic thing which is there, which is being most of the time generally which public get around. So we should not be get into panic about anything. Even currently in the LPG, that this thing happened already. We have seen that the round the clock the government was working for that, and there are many rates which were made also, and even in Delhi also many of the cylinders were even kept out from some of the low, some of the which were there with some of the public, some of the person, I would say, particular person. So panic won't help, and stay with the thing. The government is also working a lot on that. We have the strategic petroleum reserves also, and we have the government is trying to have the LPG, all the precise natural gas from different sources. So this panic thing, what it creates, that when it comes from the different sources, it's somewhere unnecessarily create problem. And even the we have seen that some of the public which were having the reserve for 24 days, 25 days cylinder, because of the panic thing, they were going also, and they wanted to have the extra one. So in a way, it creates problem for the whole Indian public as such. So that should not be there. Even for 24 day, 25 day, it was there. Of course, the next thing will come, and over a period of time, the country will definitely taking care of that. So I think here the national interest becomes very very important. And I said earlier also, the economic rules and principles work only when we take care of the national interest. If everyone is aware of Avantika ji, what is going on with Israel, everyone is aware of what is going Iran. Everyone is aware that what is the situation through the country is going on. So if we are aware as a national, with a national interest, as a sensible citizen of the nation, we are aware of, then of course we can understand this type of situation at at our local level, that okay, we need to be have the patience, and we need to take care of that. And already there are press conferences which are given by the secretary, all round the clock. Always they are giving the preference and how we are working about it. So panic is something, panic economics nowadays a lot of term which is being used, that how panic economics or by this panic mongering leads to create a lot of problems psychologically also, and it gives to take the nation back. So that is the thing which I would like to say. Having said that, the same thing was there in the COVID also. In the COVID crisis also, which you have observed, since you keep on in touch with the field thing also, a lot of field developments, you may have seen that during the COVID also, the most of the problems which happened because of the the panic thing was that this will happen, and this vaccine was happening, and this will not going to come. But what we saw that over time, over the period of time, the things were came in the normal route, and so people started getting the vaccine. The things become very good, and some of the people, alas, who suffered psychological problem because of that, a panic thing. Some sorry to say that some suffered severe issues because of that. That would not have happened. So my single line will be that keeping the national interest at the higher level, that should be the priority, and people are working at their level very fast, and that will be solve the situation in a very nice way. Yes.
Thank you, Rakesh ji. Thank you for all the great insights and your precious, valuable time that you have given to us. And hopefully, we soon will have another round of discussion once we have the trade deal on the table and we are aware of this. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone.